Hello,
I
hello,
was
hello,
wondering.
hello. This is Tisha McDonald, Alternatives Beauty Studio.
And this is Tanika Gillar. I am naturally yours.
Well, how was your day today, Nikki?
It was a busy day, but it's always a busy day. So it's okay. It was a good day. How about you?
It was a busy day, but it was a good day. A rainy day here. I don't know what it is down south.
It's nice out today. It's
Nice
nice.
out today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, we're not going to hold anybody long. We want to get on. This month is Domestic Abuse Month. So October is domestic abuse, and we want to acknowledge that. We also know that this is Cancer Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Month. So we are not negating that. That just so happens to not be our story, but we can talk about abuse because there are several types of abuse. And tonight we are going to talk about financial abuse. Tonight we have a special guest. Her name is Cherese Spand. Um, Tanika, do you have anything to say before we get started, before we put her on?
No, I just want to say, no, I want to say, right? Yes, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month and also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But I want to speak on behalf of my special needs community. Today, I'm going to speak on visual impairment month for childhood vision loss. That's this month, and their color is white. So you'll see on Rainbow site a lot of white. For acknowledging my babies with special needs that are blind. And
Thank you for sharing that.
yes,
A
yes,
little tip every week we're going to have another tip for the special needs community. We have to get the word out.
yes, those are the babies.
I just also would like to say we are streaming live on YouTube at Twinness, Facebook at Twinness, and right here. And
This is
we're missing something.
Face
Roku
Roku.
at Voice of
Mhm.
Promise. Roku at Voice of Promise. So we're streaming on 3 devices, guys. All right. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Cherese Spand. She is a financial strategist. She has her own business called She Wealth, and she's going to talk to you about financial abuse, the signs, how do you get out of it, etc. And all this month, guys, we're going to be talking about different forms of abuse in different ways. How are you, Cherese?
Well, how are you ladies doing today?
We are
Good.
doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming on with your busy life and things that happens, in life.
It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me.
All right, so talk to us a little bit about how did you get into finances?
So I got into financial services 22 years ago with a promise to my mom. Actually, the day before she passed away, she said to me, you really need to check out financial services. And she's mentioned a specific company, and I did that. And I went to work for that company for probably about 9 years. In that time frame, I noticed that there was a sector of the business that was missing, and that was marketing to women and the issues that we go through. So I decided to take my knowledge and my expertise and my life experience and create my brand, which is She Wealth. And that stands for savvy, healthy, and empowered. Because if you're sick, I don't care how much money you have or what type of career or business, if you're sick, none of it matters. So you have to get healthy from the inside out so that you can be successful and be able to help others along their journeys.
And your
So,
job, I'm sorry,
my
go ahead, Nikki.
go ahead, T.
So you cater mainly toward women. That's what I just wanted to stress.
Mhm.
Okay, Nikki, go ahead.
My question was just starting out. What would be your suggestions for women? What should they have in place? What staple, just in general, not talking about the topic we're going to get into, but just in general, everyday life, what do you think needs to be in place for women?
So we need to be able, I always say secure the bag and or protect the purse, because if we're not able to, and we're our greatest asset, right? Our ability to be able to earn income, to be able to take care of the family and that sort of thing. If we're not able to carry on those responsibilities, then our whole world basically comes crashing down. So the foundation of every solid plan is income protection. No matter where you're starting at, no matter how much money you have, it's income protection.
And how do we do that?
I like that.
So that is done either by having long-term, short-term disability and or setting up an account which we call living benefits. And that protects your income once we sit down with you by a certain dollar amount, either per month or annually, if you develop heart attack, stroke, cancer, or an accident with a cognitive impairment where you're not able to do 2 out of 6 of your ADL's activities of daily living.
That's good to know. And I'm asking that because last year I had COVID really bad, and my sister had to come down and take care of me and help me with get my bills straight for a couple of months just till I got back on my feet. So knowing this, if y'all are catching the replay, she said we need to secure our bag and make sure our money is still working for us, even if we become ill or disabled in any way. And so that's good to know just for women in general, because a lot of times we are the primary caretakers for our family. And in a lot of cases, it's a lot of single moms. And so we wanted to touch on that. So going into our topic today, we're talking about financial abuse. And I can relate to that topic as well. But I'm going to let you talk about it, Cherese, get us started on that. And then I will come in on my end.
Okay.
Thank you for joining Twinness, y'all. Thank you for joining Twinness.
In addition, I wanted to add an emergency fund is a must, male or female, doesn't matter who you are. Everyone should have 3 to 6 months. And as we saw with COVID, we should have almost up to a year of living expenses set aside just in case anything happens, because we never know, from day to day what can happen.
That is true. However, and then we're going to go into the topic, but how does one, if you just live in paycheck to paycheck, that's kind of hard to set up a 6 month to a year. Give us just a nugget on how you can do that.
So the first thing we do is sit down and review so if you are a W-2 employee, we review your paycheck. A lot of people don't even have their deduction set up properly, so they're paying too much in tax during their weekly or biweekly payment. If we can reduce that, we look at your spending habits, maybe leave out a few of those lattes a week and stuff like that, so that we can get the accumulation going. I don't try to starve people, because that's no fun. They're like, here she comes talking about I got to give up my Starbucks. That's my joy. But certain things that are done that incrementally that we do add up so quickly.
Yes.
$5 a day is $150 a month. That's a lot.
Girl.
And, people spend $20 a day.
Girl. And it's really my teenage son. And I just told him today, I said, this is going to cut out. He's 17. He just got a job. I'm like, now this junk food that you like so much, that's going to be on your dime, because I can send him 20 today, 25 the next day. I'm like, that's too much money going out just for you to eat junk.
It adds up so quickly. And I always tell my clients, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is not something where you should have a large pile sitting somewhere. If you're able to save, even do half of what you're doing, and you're able to save $300 a month, right? At the end of the year, you got $3,600.
See how you broke that down so simply?
Yeah.
See how you broke that down so simply? Because I'm just going to tell you right now, I just gave my kids $50 because I refused to come home today and cook dinner. Right. And they ate out yesterday. So it's not like, it's bad. It's pretty bad. But then let's get into it now. Let's get into it.
Okay. Sometimes you have to think about, we call dollar cost averaging. Okay. How much do you earn per hour? Is it worth it for you to really just think about it, to cook sometimes? Sometimes it's not worth it. If you are out earning an income and you make more than $50 an hour, or whatever it is, it might be worth it for you to pay that $40 or that $30 to order out. so that you can complete what you're doing. I mean, we got to switch our mindset a little because times have changed. As women, we're running businesses, we're working, there's dual incomes in the house. Sometimes there's only one, sometimes you're the dual income. So it just depends on the person. And I'm like, I don't, back in the day, they used to say for your budget, the quickest way to blow your budget is eating out. Well, guess what? I'd rather go and get 2 tacos for $10 than to stand in the kitchen. Then I got to clean, do dishes, and all of that's going to take me 3 hours. If I bill out at $1.25 an hour, go get the tacos.
Yes, absolutely. Going to the grocery store and the groceries cost more than if you already bought it ready-made. I'm with you. But anyway, we're going to talk about financial abuse in domestic situations. So tell us about it. Why is it important for us to know and protect ourselves? What are some signs that mate or partner is trying to take advantage of you financially?
So disclaimer, this goes for males and females. It's not just one side. A lot of times people see my name and they think it's just all about women. No, this is for male and females. What happens in financial abuse, 99% of DV, domestic violence cases, include financial abuse, but nobody ever talks about it. So, and a lot of people might say, well, what is it? Well, it includes everything from them not knowing, the other spouse or partner not knowing what the bills are in the house, to if the relationship it ends eventually either by death or divorce, they don't have the ability to earn income. They don't know how to earn income. They don't know where any of the money is. You'd be surprised as to how many women to get up there in age, so like the baby boomers, don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know what their spouse did with the money all the years. They just knew it came into the house. They worked, they deposited, and they took care of everything, and then that was it. And that's a scary place to be, because even as a person, me knowing about money and knowing about funds, when I went through my divorce, I went through financial devastation because I figured that I had a spouse, we were going to be together for life, and that this was our retirement plan. This is how we had things set up. But then once I shifted from 2 incomes to one. No, actually 2 incomes to 1 income to none, because at that time I wasn't working. I was taking care of the house, and thinking of what was going to be provided to me, and then that being snatched away was the scariest thing that I have been through in my entire life. And it caused me to go through a nervous breakdown, because I'm like, I still have the same expenses I had when I was married. I still have, at that time it was rent and car and insurance and all of this other stuff. And now that income is not being provided, which was very, very scary. And then to add insult to injury, it was like I was locked out of everything. So nothing is attainable until everything is settled. So now when I'm talking through the process with couples, I stress the importance of them knowing, having an open book, being honest. Like when you're dating or before you move in together, talk about it. How much do you earn? How much is mortgage? How much is rent? How much is car payment, insurance? How much do we spend on food? And if something happens, what's the process? Because you don't want to be left in the dark. When you got all these emotions going on and stuff, it is really, really tough to kind of navigate through the situation.
Okay, I hear you. And I'm going to add on to that in a little bit. What would you suggest they do? I know you said talk about it, be open and honest about it. What if your spouse or your mate or whoever, your partner, just one, they don't know how to handle money, they're not good with money, or two, they're not forthcoming with their income? Some people try to, but go ahead.
So that comes across a lot. The partner not being forthcoming, they don't want to discuss it. And to be balanced, and not having to be one-sided, somebody in the relationship has to take charge and say, well, we don't have life insurance, we don't have income protection. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that those applications are submitted for the family because we haven't done it yet, and because you don't want to be forthcoming, it doesn't mean that I need to be stuck like Chuck in case something happens. God forbid your spouse gets injured and you're depending on his income, whether you're working or not. Well, you're stuck. And that's what has happened a lot. And even like during COVID, people have realized that, oh my goodness, my spouse is out of work. Like, what do I do now? Like they start selling stuff, and they start panicking. We got 2 car payments. We got to get rid of one, all these things. And now your life is changing.
Yes.
When we start to become proactive instead of reactive, the way we visualize life and the way our things happen changes.
Cherese, can you see the comment?
What about a will if one spouse does not see the need? And I can't.
And you do. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to talk about that in a second, but you go ahead first, because some of you know, some of you don't. I am a funeral director, and that is a whole nother ball game. So go ahead, Cherese, you speak first.
If you are breathing and you have 2 legs, you need a living will and you need a regular will. In addition, you need to have your power of attorneys set up for your partners and your adult children. And I'm going to give you an example why. My daughter was 21, 5 days after her 21st birthday. She ended up in the hospital. And I can talk about this because she'll say it due to a suicide attempt. Well, while she was in the hospital, when she came out, she was nonverbal. So I didn't know how to care for her, and not knowing that I should have had a power of attorney set up for my child, they could not speak to me as to what was going on with her while she was in the hospital. Now, mind you, we're paying the medical insurance and everything else, and she's still living at home. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to care for her if she's not speaking? They're like, we don't know what to tell you. If she doesn't tell you what's going on or what she's feeling, then there's no other way for you to find out. So for the adult children, that's one. The second is that everyone needs to have a will. Why do they feel that it's not important? I think for us as people of color, it's really something that's passed down into our DNA because of things that happened years and years ago that we don't even understand why they were going on, but now it's clear why they happened. And that's another show. I won't even get into that now, but a will, everyone needs to have a will because, so for example, in the state of North Carolina, if you are married and you die intestate, that means without a will, your children become wards of the state.
Wow.
So you have the option of, not the option, you put yourself, in a position to leave the state in charge of what goes on with your spouse's stuff. So I'll give you another example. Let's say there was a retirement fund that your spouse had and you weren't labeled as the beneficiary for whatever reason. They left it to the children. You can't touch that money until you can't touch that money at all. Excuse me. That money will go into the trust for the children and they'll see it when they turn 18 or 21 or whatever the age is. So it's very important to have a will done, even if it's a simple will. Upon my death, my spouse is to receive this. My children are to receive this. This is what happened to this property. This is what happens to this account. Speaking of accounts, another thing to add into the will thing, it's very important that if you carry joint or separate accounts, that you have names listed on those accounts fully, even if the person doesn't have a card, even if they don't know that they have access to the account at that time. And you should have a binder with everything listed. So passcodes to computers, phones, all types of accounts. People have Acorn accounts, Bitcoin accounts. Like there needs to be a whole binder set aside with all of your information.
I'm writing this down.
All of your information listed, because sometimes you have time to talk to a person who's either ill or passing away, and sometimes, boom, you don't. And that's when it happens. Oh my gosh, like, how do I get into their account? Like, what's their debit card? Like, you know, and this is even for parents, aunts, uncles who don't have children. Everybody needs to have a will. And in addition to the will, you need to have a binder put either in a safe deposit box or a safe place in your home stating where everything is, what you want done in case of emergency, what clothes you want to wear when it's your time. You know, people argue over the most frivolous things when people pass away. You know, when my dad was gone, they're like, well, we want him to wear a blue suit and we want him to wear a gray suit. I'm like, are y'all serious? I'm just trying to make it through the day. You know what I'm saying? So when it's written out, it makes it a lot easier. And if the other spouse doesn't want to, you take the initiative and make sure that your stuff is set up for your family. And then once they see that, they normally go ahead with the program.
You are watching Twinness with Tisha McDonald. We have a special guest, Cherese Spand. She is a financial advisor. Her specialty is women and getting their finances in order. I don't know if we're going to make the topic today, but we have been weaving it in and out on what women and men should be doing to protect themselves from financial abuse and preparing for their demise or their future. My name is Tanika Gillard. And so, Tisha, you can take it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Cherese. Again, we are streaming on YouTube and we are on at Voice of Promise. And the question came up, what about a will if one spouse wants it and the other one doesn't? So I'm going to tell you. So I graduated funeral service in 2019 and you'll be surprised. And Cherese, what you said as far as the funeral and having your clothes ready, my mom died 2 years ago. Let me tell you something. She had everything done to the T. The only thing I had to do is put her gloves on. She had her hat done. She had her clothes laid out. She had everything. She had, for Christmas, she sent all of us Do Not Resuscitate. That was our Christmas gift. Do not resuscitate. Death was never something that was like taboo in our house. My grandmother would talk about it all the time because she said, I'm not going to be here forever. I want you to know this, that, and the other. Right. So we knew. And so when people ask me, why would you go into funeral service? Why not? It's not a problem with the dead. It's always a problem with the living. But she had everything. She had her plot paid for and everything. And when I was in school, we learned that back in the day, everybody had enough insurance for their funeral expenses. Today, nobody has anything for their funeral expenses. And that's why today funerals are requiring you to pay everything up front. Because then they get stuck, you ordering this casket and all of this, you know, and you can't afford it. And then they don't get paid. So they're stuck. But anyway, and funeral homes don't like to have to sue a client, but they will, you know. Why should you have a will or what should you do? Now, my husband and I, we've been together 23 years. You know, I still don't have a will. And I keep saying that we need to get it because we own several properties. And if something happens to us, I'm telling him, you know, he just finds, and most like what you touched upon, Cherese, is Black families. Now, I know better. And I'm saying, Walter, we need to get this together. I own a business. I'm ready to open up another business. We have several properties. If something happened if we both were in a car accident, what's going to happen? You know? So, yeah. And then in the state of Pennsylvania, you can buy, a woman or anybody can buy a home without their spouse's signature, but you cannot sell that home in Pennsylvania without the signature. I'm like, how is that? You can buy a home singular, but you can't sell it if you're married. I'm like, these rules, these laws. Crazy. And in my area now, I live in Delaware. We're in a deed restricted area. So if my name is not on the deed, when he dies, I don't get the house. because it's a deed restricted. So you have to know your laws in your states.
Right.
In New Jersey, you don't even have to go to a lawyer to have a will. They will take a handwritten will. If it's notarized, sometimes you don't even need the notary. So you could just write down what you want done. You don't necessarily have to go to a lawyer and pay all these fees. However, you want to do that, but you also do need that power of attorney. You need a living will. I'm all about the trust, because if your stuff is in a trust, then nobody could touch a thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Talk about it, Cherese. We're not talking to me. We're here.
One second.
Okay,
I need to touch on it real quick as a special needs parent. I always have to touch on it as a special needs parent. That was one of the things that I had to get in place for my daughter. I don't know if y'all know, but I recently got divorced, and that was even a judgment in the divorce. But I had my will done way before. So the person, Angelique, asked the question, what if the spouse doesn't see the need? I had my will and trust set up while I was married, and I didn't let him know I was going to meet the attorney. I told him after I did it that I did it. And the reason why, my daughter, I'm a nurse, most know, and my daughter has a lot of disabilities. She has a lot going on with her. I did not put him as her power of attorney or whatever, because he's not real medical savvy. So I needed some of my friends that are nurses and my sister to make the decision when it comes to my daughter's care. She does have a trust. And it's funny that we're talking about this today, because I went back through and upped everything. I made sure my life insurance policy was good. I made sure that my will was still in good standing. So when I had COVID again last year, I went live on Facebook and I said, hey, do y'all have your stuff in order? If something happens to me today, I'm good because I have my will in place. My daughter's going to be taken care of. I know my house is going to be, like the insurance will pay off the house. The house is in the trust. It goes to my daughter and my son. And so what I was jotting down, listening to Cherese, I do have to do those things. Those are things to think about. I need to put the bank accounts in my son's name in case something happens, because I have seen where that's a problem when the parent dies and nobody's over the account. It's a problem. So I'm going to do that. I am going to do those passwords, and I'm going to put it with my will, because my son, he's 17, and I told him where everything was the other day. We reinforce it. I'm like, I'm not planning nothing, but just in case. And so, Cherese, you got it.
There's so many like trigger points in there, like during the conversation, I'm like writing my notes, like I can't even write fast enough. Like, so what I wanted to say is that first about the burial insurance. The reason why back in the day, a lot of us had burial insurance, because that was all we were allowed to purchase by law. We were not allowed to purchase life insurance policies because life insurance is the cornerstone of wealth creation. So we were only allowed to purchase $10,000, $15,000 worth in case something happened, which was a good thing, but it put us behind the 8 ball financially. And that's why we have this huge wealth gap. Topic for another show.
Cherese, you're into the whole life insurance though, right?
I'm into everything.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Term, I'm into index universal life, and then we're also into whole life, depending on what stage a person is in their life, because they're built for different stages of life and different stages of wealth.
Yes.
Okay. Second thing is if you have property, forget about passing away. God forbid you get sick and you need care. They will spend you down. So if you need to go into, a type of assisted living, even before you get older, let's say there's an accident and you can't walk and you need care, or you can't talk or something like that, and you're in assisted living, they're going to look at your assets as a whole. And for certain jobs, they only carry your benefits for a certain amount of time, and then you're cut off. So then after that, they start looking at, well, what can we attach to? So I have a client whose spouse got very sick before they passed away. Well, the marital home, the home that was left, they wanted to attach the bill, the final bill from the nursing facility to her as a lien on the property. And imagine you just spent years with your partner being ill, and now they passed away, and now you got the facilities like, oh, we're sorry, but you owe this money, and now if we're going to put a lien on your house if we don't get it. And it's kind of like, okay, you exhausted Medicare and all these other things, which is confusing on top of everything else, and now you got to think about this lien. So it is very important to have yourself. You have a business, we're getting into another topic. Your business needs to be protected, right? And then the protection needs to have a protection, which in addition is a trust. So when it's time to transfer those assets, it's transferred without all the craziness and nonsense going on. It still includes a will. It still includes the power, like all those things are little steps that graduate into the large step.
All right, back to financial abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, I know I don't share everything with my husband. He doesn't know everything, but he knows a lot of things. But like I've always been taught, women should have their own separate. And so he knows I have separate accounts, and we don't share an account at all. We don't have a pool where we pay bills out of one account. We don't do that. We have never done that. And again, we've been married 23 years and it works for us. Right. He pays the mortgages, and then I pay whatever else. So the electric bill, the cable bill, the kids' clothes, whatever it is, right. I get that. But and that's the way we've always worked it. We don't share accounts. Mm-hmm. And some people find that to be kind of odd. No, we don't pool our money. We've never pooled our money. So this way as well. And we're not looking at divorce anytime soon or anything like that. But if it were to come down to that, we both have our own, and that's just the way we've always set it up.
I'm the same way. Well, I had an attorney that said that you shouldn't combine all your stuff like that when I got married. And so I was happy that I listened to that advice for this particular relationship, because I didn't know that he was in thousands of dollars in debt with the IRS. And if my name and accounts was attached, they would have come for me. And that is where that not being truthful came in. It was like, I didn't know that you had all of these debts before we got married. And if I would have known, I don't know if that would have worked, because love is not enough to sustain a marriage, and I'm sorry to say, but saying God, at the center, that's fine, but we need to still communicate about what's going on with your finances. And even with his job, with his insurance policies, it was everything to me, but then it was going to the sisters after, but you're not thinking about this child that has special needs. And that is who would really need the benefits, not your family on that side. This little girl needs the benefits. And so I couldn't get that through to him enough. But yeah, we always kept everything separated for that reason. And then also prior to that, and we're talking about financial abuse, but I was in a domestic abusive relationship. I was married and as a nurse, and he was like, if your paycheck don't hit my account, I knew if my paycheck didn't hit his account, I was in for a beating that day. And so my mother had already told us, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. So I always had a separate account so that when it was time to go, I didn't have a lot of money in that account, but I had enough to get to where I needed to go. And so that's kind of hard right there. And so just knowing to have a separate account for reasons like that. And that's how I never mixed and mingled anything else with anyone.
Right. Which is very important. I mean, each relationship is different. So it depends on what works for that particular couple. Even in my marriage, we had our separate accounts and then we had a joint account. So if a check comes in or whatever, vice versa, he would be able to deposit it. I would be able to deposit it. It wouldn't be any issues as far as that is concerned. But when it comes to getting things set up, all these questions always come across social media, and my answer is prenup, prenup, prenup. Or automatically people think a prenup is for divorce, and it's not even just for that. It's for things that can happen during the marriage,
Right.
especially when you have a business. Give you a perfect example. If you have a business or your spouse has a business, right? Maybe you don't know what's going on in the business. Something happens to them. What is your role? Are you supposed to take over? Is the partner supposed to buy you out now that your spouse is not there? Like, there's so many different variables that can go on when we are commingling funds, commingling business, commingling properties. And in the end, like, nothing matters to the court except for what's in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And that's the lesson I learned through my divorce. I'm like, well, he told me, they're like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you was pushed down a flight of steps, your neck was broke, your arm, your leg. None of that matters. What matters is what's in writing.
Yeah.
And that's what they go by. So we have to make sure that everything is documented. Having our separate savings is uber important on the side. And it's not that you're hiding it or anything like that. It's just like, I got this account. This is my account for my stuff. If you had an account for your stuff, that's cool. I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no qualms about that. But we need to make sure that both of us are secure in case of anything.
You guys are watching Twinness. We are talking financial abuse or financial stability. Let's put it that way, because we want to get stable in our finances. Could you, Cherese, give us your website, your information, that way people could contact you if they needed to?
Oh, absolutely. So my website is www.shewealth.net. www.shewealth.net. And the number attached to it, I'm sorry, is 484-222-3050.
Do you help people all over the nation, or do you specialize in one area?
That's what I was just getting ready to say. I'm licensed in 10 states. So I'm licensed in the tri-state area, Delaware, Maryland, North, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Florida, and Alabama.
Alabama?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I am, you guys.
Okay.
In case you didn't know. And I'm only asking because I want the business to be protected with the business, and the business with the trust.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
We were talking about financial abuse, but it ended up just being just really good financial sound advice with a twist, a little tinge of financial abuse. And we are just so happy that Cherese was able to spend some time with us tonight. And we want to say thank you because we know you have things going on. We appreciate your time. Tanika, did you have anything to say? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, but I'm going to get the information just in case I need to, harass you later.
No problem.
The trust on top of the trust.
Yes.
And I want you guys to know that I did put in the chat prior, Cherese Spand, shewealth.net. And I have the 570, Cherese, 570-856-0395.
That's my direct cell.
Oh, excuse me. She gave y'all her direct cell. So if you need any information, maybe a consultation or something like that, you can call her, hit her up, because I know I will probably be hitting her up because I have some things that need to be done. Yes. I have some things that need to be done. Cherese, do you have any last words?
Yeah, I want to say, don't feel overwhelmed, because a lot of times we talk about these topics and people get scared. They're like, that's a lot. I'm not ready yet. I'm not sure. It doesn't cost anything to have a conversation, to get recommendations, to have a second opinion. Maybe you got some stuff set up already. Let's take a look at what you have going on and see if that's the best route for you. And at our firm, I handle everything from debt, budget, and credit, all the way to estate planning and legacy succession. So if you're anywhere in between any of those lines, we're able to take a look at your scenario. And don't feel like I don't have, $200,000 or $300,000. Nobody wants to talk to me. That's not true. We will welcome you with open arms and have a conversation as to what you're doing and what needs to be done.
Do you have a physical location?
I have a physical office. It's in North Carolina.
Okay.
So when I travel, depending on what state I'm in at the time, I'm able to meet with clients one-on-one if they want to meet one-on-one. But otherwise, we do virtual visits over Zoom, online, and then telephone conferences.
Thank you for making that clear. I appreciate that. Nikki, anything?
No.
Okay, guys, we want to say thank you for watching. We again want to say thank you to Cherese for being here tonight. Next week, we are talking about physical abuse, guys. This is Abuse Awareness Month, and we are going to talk about domestic violence next week. Tanika is going to share some of her personal stories with domestic abuse. Many of you know, some of you don't know, our mother was beaten to death and left on the street for dead. And so we definitely know about domestic violence and domestic abuse. And we are going to talk about our stories next week, right here, 6 p.m., 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we want to say again, thank you to Cherese. Tonight was about financial abuse. And we touched on quite a few different things. So if you're catching a replay, we say thank you. And we hope that you get a lot of information from this and you have Cherese's information if you need to get in contact with her. Again, thank you and good night.
Good night. And thank you. And I think I'm going to watch the replay myself because there was some nuggets in there, Cherese. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.